I'm Craig Constantine. Welcome to the Movers Mindset Podcast, where I talk with movement enthusiasts to learn who they are, what they do, and as I've said a million times, why they do it. My guest today is Sean Hanna. Welcome back, Sean.
Thank you, Craig. Pleasure to see you, sir.
Yes, and it was great to see you again. When I looked, so Sean has been on the show before. It's like 7 years ago. Oh my goodness, we had a great conversation. It was
just six. Actually, it is almost 7. You're right.
What's that? I never hear that. Say the phrase. I went back and I looked at the notes and I listened to little bits of it, and like it all came back to me because that was one of the ones that I was able to do in person. So it was like super cool to get a chance to talk to you. And I feel like our paths haven't crossed a ton since then. So partly I'm like, dude, what have you been up to in 7 years? But also I just had a chance. I always like to split the hair of, I didn't train with you. You taught and I was a student. I had a chance to be a student in your sessions and to do a couple, I think it was 2, maybe 3 of your cool down sessions with you. So I got a chance to play in the Monkey Do pool recently. And I really was like, oh, this is like yes, more of this, please. So I don't know. I guess maybe I should give you a question. Like, what do you think keeps people from actually trying to make the changes that like you're encouraging people to move, but to actually do strength training to increase their mobility and their capabilities? And like, what do you think is holding people back? Are they don't see it as possible? They don't know where to start. They don't think it's a thing. They don't remember how to do it.
All those things. Also, they don't know how to do it. They're scared of making it worse. It takes a lot of concentration. No one's ever taught them, and it's really not promoted at all in the West. Even in strength coaching programs, you typically only see the stuff that I'm making people do at the highest levels. You know, professional athletes with an entire team around them, especially ones that have gone through an injury or a surgery, or they're later in their careers and they have a chronic condition set in. Very, very, very few people except the highest level athletes are going to have an entire team, from a sports psychologist to an athletic trainer to a physical therapist to a sports medicine guy, on into their whole staff of strength coaches to take them through every phase of remodeling a joint back to full function. That's a process that most people have never even been exposed to, have no idea even exists. If they know it exists, they know it as physical therapy or physiotherapy, which is designed for basic healing. It's to get you back to basic function. But if you're talking about going beyond into athletic function and even preventing the next injury, you have to go through a whole long process called remodeling that takes several months to even years, depending on how deep the damage is. And that's something that even if people know that it exists, that's a bear to look at and consider. And you'll be doing a lot of that by yourself, and it's slow and it's frustrating. And I get why people quit. That's why I made a service that is trying to, help guide them along through that process to a place of independence where they can become their own maintenance mechanic and get rid of pain on their own. Because once you know how to do it, it's pleasurable. It's fun. I look forward to my mobility every day. But first, you got to go through the dark, dirty dungeon of sorting through your pain and balancing it out. And that's no fun. So we help them to that place. That's what we try to do.
I'm torn. I want to say, sweet. Oh, thank you so much for making that thing because, yes, please make the world a better place. Please enable more people to do that. And when I was, so it's monkeydo.fit. I love people who have really nice top level domain names. So monkeydo.fit. There's really some cool stuff on YouTube and some nice testimonials right in the front of the website. So, I'll put it all in the show notes. People just go look. But on one of the things, and I can't quite talk to the mic and read at the same time. One of the things, so first of all, I love that your tagline is what moves you, but there's a phrase, I think I found this in the FAQ, which was, you must have reasons to move beyond not being in pain. You have to want to play again. I love that the word again is there. And I feel like, so I dabble in yoga. I'm not a yogi and I don't play one on TV. And there's a thing with my left knee 35 years ago. I have a great story, goes with this injury, but I shredded the front of my patellar tendon. Like I could see the muscle fibers sticking out where the skin should have been. I was in my young and dumb 20s at the time. So I came back pretty good from that, but I never really rehabbed it. I never really rebuilt it. So sometimes if I do like that little squat with your arms up at the front of a sun salutation, On the first or the second cycle through, that knee barks, that tendon will like kind of yell at me, and the leg wants to unload. And the reason I bring this up is my instinct is to pause and to go, instead of unload it and shift my weight, I go back to it and I like lower the loading and I go back like, ooh, that needs what's going on there. And like I go back to the, I don't want to say injury, but I go back to that squeak and I like kind of like work through it. And after I did your session and prepping for today, I was thinking, wait, that's not normal. I don't think most people would like, stub their toe and then go back and investigate that more. They would want to go around that. And that I think is maybe what leads to people building movement patterns and accommodations that actually make them weaker in the long run. Or so I'm just wondering, like, how do you spark that? Assuming that I'm not completely deluded and I'm doing it wrong, how do you spark that in people to get them to be curious about the squeaky thing that needs to be fixed?
Right. Well, that's why I allude to playing again, because they have to come with the spark. If you don't have something that lights your fire inside, you're never going to do slow isometric squatting patterns at a 20-degree supinated tilt to trigger the same pain that injured you in the sprain from 10 years ago. No one wants to think about it that deep. No one wants to deal with it for that long. Because, like I said, it takes time and it's
Mm,
hard and it sucks and it's frustrating and it's easily reversible. And it requires you to not just stop avoiding your pain, but go and get to know it at the deepest level you've ever done so that you can get back to playing. If you don't have something to play for, it's not going to happen. It's not going to
mm,
work. And that's important to point out because, as we know from being fellow movers, that is
yeah.
that has quickly been patterned out.
Yeah.
So I can't get, so the answer is I can't give a person that spark. They have to come with it. And the spark is the thing you love doing that's either going away or has gone away, but you'll do anything to get it back, including slow eccentric squats.
Mm. Yeah. I had a great conversation with a gentleman named Iron Gump, who was talking about MIST, meditative strength training. And as I was thinking about what are Sean and I going to talk about, I'm like, oh, it was about a year ago when I talked to him, and that was another one of those conversations that just resonated with me because he's talking about like slow and isometric and just like isometric, I guess would be technically completely static, but what there's like that thing that's like I'm moving, but I'm barely moving, is I'm not quite locked, and that just that there's something I learned about that like QM quadrupedal movement calls to me like that. And I don't know if I learned that somewhere. I was just kind of in my head. I was picking like, where did I get that from? And that idea that's good. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of different systems, a lot of them thousands of years old. Tai Chi, a lot of Chinese martial arts are thinking about that use
Mm,
slow movement as the base of their training. Now, obviously, that's not all they do. Like they're training for combat in the case of
right.
martial arts. So eventually you're going to have to move a little quicker, right? But you set the base for that in your body's ability to handle load, take a particular form, use its geometry to create and deliver force and also absorb it. All that stuff starts with a base of slow and even stopped static isometric movement.
Mm,
Now, why is that? Scientifically, under a microscope, we haven't seen that, or we haven't really understood that to any deep degree until it's pretty recent. You can't blame people for not for knowing this stuff. It wasn't in my textbooks in exercise science school 20 years ago that the pace, the tempo, the load, the angle, we know that we can select for certain strength qualities in other realms, and the research is voluminous for developing muscle size, speed, even bone density. But what are the protocols that deal with ligament thickness, filling in damage to a tendon,
mm,
reorganizing fascia around a nerve to take pressure off it so it doesn't signal pain and make you avoid a particular range of motion? Turns out it's not any new special fancy list of movements or new exercises. It's the same stuff slowed down, lightened up, made more partial. It's the same movements everybody knows. You're just turning the dials back. So, what we
mm,
try to do is get people to understand that. If you have pain, if you have a limitation, you don't stop doing the thing that hurt it. You do the thing that hurt it slow, partial, light. Take it down to the baby amount the tolerable amount, and then start pushing it back up the scale. And by the time you can do it fast and heavy again, you're healed. Congratulations. Fine
Remodeled.
taking. You're
Yeah.
remodeled. You've remodeled. Yeah. So now we can see that the pace, the tempo, or sorry, the pace, the load, the angle, all these things can be selected tissue by tissue. Oh, you want to work on nerve and fascia? Do it this way. Same squat, same push up, same pull, same mechanisms,
Mm.
but do it at this speed, at this angle, this load. And then we can take it from nerve fascia over to muscle and bone over to meta qualities like speed power.
I think there's an interesting piece. Um, my brain goes so fast. I'm like running through these particular movements that you had us doing. I'm not even going to try and do it because we're not, this isn't video. People can go sign up for a session and talk to you in person, like digitally in real time. But I'm thinking about how, um, I don't want to like the body is not a machine, but I've loved the metaphor of the tensegrity type mechanisms and the ideas of like twisting while loading your knee and lowering. Like when that knee is injured, just talking about that can make me go, I don't know about this. But then when I go, well, I can bend it a little bit, and I can load it a little bit, and then as I move around, it's like my body just knows that dynamic type of loading, that it's almost like, what the problem was? My brain thought it knew how to work the machine, and it was like overriding the controls. And when I just get out of my head, get out of my own way, then I'm able to really embody that movement again. And I almost want to be like the fly on the wall to see how you coach some people in their first couple sessions. But where do you start with people? Do you have a place that you start, or do you say, like, point to the thing that hurts the most and we'll start there?
Uh, that is how we begin collecting information on people. So the the broader psychological battle does
Mm,
start right at the beginning, because first you do have to break people's beliefs around what pain is, what it's for, how much is good, how much is bad, what's useful, what's not useful, and all the different types. This stuff is important. You're not going to fix your pain unless you get to know it. You can't numb it or avoid it. But then you have to understand, okay, what are we selecting for? What's the main issue that we're selecting for? So, as an example, person will come to me thinking they have a knee problem, and they do, but what they almost always have is a full head to toe biomechanical remodel that needs to be done, that just
that's
happens to be popping out at the knee the most,
that's the
the most
blowout. Yeah.
obviously right now, right? And in order to take in order for a person to get themselves to a place where they're going to go through that whole process, first they have to, one, believe that it's possible, and two, they have to understand pain as their guide. And then three, they have to understand how they can misinterpret those signals and lead themselves astray.
Mm,
And all the different layers to our psyche that can impede or enhance, that can amplify, or the word is attenuate. In the literature, we now call it centralized pain. We have like actual tissue damage pain, which is real. Then you have neuropathic pain, which is kind of like your embodied history of pain written into your nerves and your fascia. That's like trauma response that will make you avoid and compensate.
mm.
That's a different level of pain. And then on top of those two, you have the way you feel about it all, right? The words that you use, the way you think about pain will determine to a very large degree whether or not you can ever heal it. That's why people who say, like, I don't believe that it's possible to cure osteoarthritis. Someone like me comes in, and if they're in our classes, like, I'll even pull up Google and I'll be like, well, let's ask the oracle. A lot depends on how you ask the question. Is there a cure for osteoarthritis? Click. No.
No.
Well, that's because you asked a medical question.
Yeah.
Let's ask a movement-based biomechanics question. Is there evidence to support eccentric and isometric training protocols for long-term remodeling of joint and restoration of joint space? Now, if you under
Absolutely.
now if you understand that osteoarthritis means bone irritated, that's the plain English translation of osteoarthritis. Bone be irritated. Okay, why is it so mad? Because it's lost joint space. It's compressed. Well, how did that happen? You know, How did that happen over time? Well, we have to go back out from the joint itself and look at the surrounding tissue. What's the quality of the fascia? Is it stuck? Is it immobile? Is it overbalanced to one side? Is it underdeveloped? Does it not glide over here? That's what's compressing the joint. That's what's irritating the bone. Well, how do we deal with that? Right? That's a functional issue.
Mm.
And what and that's the positive news that we try to bring to people at the beginning of their programs is yeah, you are messed up, but here's the good news. A lot of that messed up is, one, it's in your head. Doesn't mean it's not real. It means a portion of this is actually the words you're using around it, how you're amplifying or dulling your pain through your psychological response, your perception of it. How you talk about it matters. You could change the way you talk about it and immediately dampen your pain signaling, which would allow more loading, which will prompt a strength adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So in a very real sense, you have to get out of your own way mentally first. For a lot of people, they have to break that conditioning. And then past that, we have to understand, okay, there's layers to the remaining pain, the bodily pain that you're feeling. And a big portion of that isn't damage. You are damaged to some degree, but there's a whole other stack of layers of pain beneath that, which is just guarding responses, chronic contractions of muscles, other muscles that won't turn on. Well, that's a nerve issue. And the only way we're going to resolve that nerve issue is by placing enough stress near that nerve to get it to trigger, but not at a level beyond where we're hitting the final layer of pain, which is the actual damage. We want to put enough stress near that damage to bring the fluids and bring the hormones and bring the tissue responses that are going to rebuild it without tripping over the line of load to cause new damage. Can you thread that needle? A lot of it starts with how you talk about it, and then it finishes with how you load the joint once you've gotten through all that talky shit. It it goes a lot faster if you can just stop talking and get them under a tolerable amount of load and get them to start feeling and developing that inner awareness. Stop talking about your pain and listen to what your body's actually telling you.
Mm. There's so much that I'm certain must factor in about environmental, like um, I am the shape that I am in because of 30 years of choices, and that's not like it's just a statement of fact. Like if I really wanted it to be different, I could just start making different choices. And I do make choices. I make changes. You probably can tell I'm standing because you can kind of see me like I'm shifting from one side to the other. But what you can't see is that I have a lacrosse ball on the floor and I'm barefoot. I
Fantastic.
have, I have, as Katie Bowman, I think would say, too much vitamin flat and level. I'm standing on flat floor. But a lot of times when I'm thinking, I'm leaning on my fist on my chin, leaning my chin on my fist. But I also have the lacrosse ball that I'm kind of like rolling under my foot. And I'm kind of trying to activate the whole being. And somewhere along the way, I learned that works better when I'm not just completely still and sitting. I find my mind works better when I stand up and move around. Yes, it takes my energy. Yes, I'm a little sweaty at the end of a conversation, but um, somewhere along the way, I just started playing with environmental cues like that. And I'm not the master of it all. I don't have the greatest, setup, but somewhere I learned to futz with stuff like that and to try and fiddle with outcomes. And I don't know, I don't want to say my heart goes out to people who never got that bug, but my heart goes out to people who never got that bug. So that's why I think the work you're doing and like some of the testimonial videos that I went through, I think people are picking up what you're laying down, as we used to say.
Yeah, and it, like we talked about, it all starts with that initial spark. If you have something you love to do, that's the only thing that's going to make you do what you have to do to change enough to get to play that way again. And you're right, so many people are conditioned out of it. And you and I are subject to the same forces. We're on a
Yeah.
laptop, right?
Yep.
We're on laptops looking at each other. We know what it is. We know where a lot of this damage comes from. A lot of it's passive and environmental. Okay, well, you're going to go live in the woods and get a homestead? Probably not.
I'd have to give everything up if I wanted to do that. I'm like, oh, I got to thread the needle here.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it might be cooler if you did, but the more accessible choice is to just change how you live within this built
Yeah.
environment. And that's a big part of the practice that we bring people to. Again, the pain that you think you're feeling, if it's a knee problem, if it's a shoulder problem, a back problem, brought you to me. What we're really trying to do, that's the Trojan horse that lets us sneak in the deeper medicine, which is
Mm.
that your entire movement, your whole day is your movement practice. Your
Yeah.
movement
How you
carries you.
sleep. How you sleep is your movement practice.
Right. And that includes how you hold yourself when you're not moving, your
Yeah.
postures. But people think of posture as a noun. It's not, it's a verb.
Yeah.
Posturing is something
Yeah.
you do. And once you start getting that deep into the practice, that's when you start realizing all the inconsistencies and inefficiencies that are built in to your entire day. Like you could do a perfect workout every day and still be a piece of shit if you're living the and still if you're living the other 23
Right.
hours of the day
Yeah.
inefficiently from a mechanical standpoint. That's what we're trying to do. I'm not trying to stuff an entire semester's worth of biomechanics jargon into my clients' heads. I'm trying to give them enough of the plain English, streamlined understanding of mechanics to appreciate how they're enhancing or detracting from their overall healing process throughout the day. Your whole
Mm.
day is your practice. And we give people very simple strategies to start curing this. Blunt force tools like just squeeze your ass more, butts and guts. We
Yeah.
tell people whenever you start to do anything, the first thing you do before anything is tense up butts and guts.
Yeah.
There's so many back surgeries, knee surgeries, ankle surgeries that could have been prevented if someone would have just clenched up and slowed down getting out of bed, getting up from a couch, getting in and out of a car, stepping off a curb. A lot of the damage we cause to ourselves is mindless because we're disengaged. We're habitually conditioned to disengagement. So, one of the first tools we give people is butts and guts your way through your day and watch how much easier and smoother each thing
Things
becomes.
get. I'm often torn. This might sound like a non sequitur, but I'm often torn when I do a lot of walking. There's a lot of great trails that are pretty easy, like not a lot of elevation. And I just walk to my favorite little cafe. Is like I don't know, it's 40 minutes each way on trails. Mostly part of it's on sidewalks, and I'm always torn because that's like 40 minutes twice. I could listen to like a whole good podcast episode on something if I plug in my earbuds and just stroll.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the perambulate. Like I walk at the same speed, but there's just something about being able to hear my footfalls, and now the snow is crunching, and hearing what's going on. And aside from hearing the birds and the wildlife, I find that if I don't have audio material distraction in, I wind up staying more in the movement, and I find like I get there and I kind of feel more refreshed. The first 10 minutes of walking with Craig in Craig's head is really noisy. There's always like blah, 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 blah. And if I'm listening to a podcast, that goes away. So like the opportunity to hear my own internal dialogue and then kind of talk myself out of all those dumb ideas. And about 20 minutes down the trail, I'm just like, I turn into Vonnegut. If this isn't nice, I don't know what is. But again, I have the privilege of being able to go for walks, and I have the privilege of, like, maybe you have the privilege of having a movement. Your lifestyle involves a lot of movement because of your work. And I think that's the challenge for people maybe is to prioritize, to figure out, don't just go, I used to be able to do whatever and now I can't. You have to be like, no, you should, in fact, you should be able to do more today of whatever that thing is than you did last year, because that's how your life is supposed to work. I don't know, but I'm crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the damage that we experience comes from being so stuck in these virtual intermediaries, right?
Yeah.
That's the most cliche, obvious thing you can say about the state of people's fitness and their movement, right? It's mostly that we've outsourced a lot of what we do to the cloud, and it only seems to be getting worse. Like you have to make a very intentional choice not to do that. And so, even little moments like you just described, just shutting off the podcast and choosing to hear your footfalls and feel the pressure come back from the ground. Shocker. If you only focus on what you're doing, you do it better. Oh, it's crazy, man. But it's revolutionary in a time where we are endlessly distracted. So, again, the way that we train people to get into a deeper awareness of their exercise, because, again, exercise is just a tool, and tools can be used badly, and exercise can be done incorrectly
Right.
and hurt you just as bad, right?
Yeah.
And a
You mean
big
I can't QM to Valhalla? What?
yeah. So without the development of a deep inner awareness of your body signaling as you're going through an exercise, which is, again, just a simulated movement, right? An exercise is just a simulated slice of a larger movement set. Well, to do that correctly and not overload it and do the right amount just to cause just the right amount of adaptation,
Yeah.
a lot of people are given poor strategies for that disconnect them from that. Like if you give a person, the average person, say a protocol that says 3 sets of 10, that's what you need to do. They're just going to do 10 and hope that that does it. And they might be blowing through a pain point over and
Right.
over again and making it worse. You've made it 10 times worse with each rep. One's worse, two's worse, three's
Three injuries,
worse.
4 injuries.
Right. So again, this is why we take people down to the very beginning end of strength. When we talk about development of strength, as coaches, we just think in terms of scales. Nothing is either or. There's no good or bad positions. It's did you prep it? And when it comes to healing your joints, what are we trying to prep? Well, first we have to go find what has broken down. What are the movement patterns that have broken down? Okay, now how much is left? Okay, there's 17% left. Let's get it down to a round number. Let's test your joint angle under load, and here's what it should be, and here's what it is. Okay, let's start filling in the gap 3 degrees at a time. Well, how do you know that's happening? You'll never know that's happening if you just keep doing 3 reps or 3 sets of 10. What
Yeah.
you have to do is one incredibly slow rep and not think about any other number other than maybe intensity of pain, because the intensity of pain lets us know how close we are to the problem, which also lets us know that back one level is the solution. There, we found it. You'll never understand that doing 3 sets of 10. You can only understand that doing, say, 45 seconds of the eccentric portion of 20% of your squat when your pain level hits 3. If you have to put it into bloodless numbers, let's at least use them a little bit more intelligently. And that comes back to slow their tempo down just enough to get them into that inner awareness of the signaling.
Mm. Yeah, I have a feeling we could violently argue in total agreement all day because I was just like, yes, more of this. It's funny how you put things together. I was just reading an article at lunch about somebody, and I won't bother name dropping, who was talking about the shift. And so, from their point of view, they're thinking this is beginning to happen. So, this is going to be my question for you: the shift from what used to be training people as if they were machines. So, I'm not going to rail on gymnastics, but having a specific ideal of what a movement should look like, training that methodology. And now, what this person was saying, and I agree, we're starting to see more and more of general movement patterns happening, and that's appearing that way in sport. It's appearing that way in competition and training. And I'm just wondering, like, what popped in my head was, what's your read on how things have been shifting, since the 20 years or so, since you really started digging into this as a thing you were trying to do as your primary, this is what I'm going to do in my life. Has there been a shift? Do you feel like we're, like, as a Western culture, turning a corner to realizing the error we made about trying to train like machines? Or
Yeah, I would say even it's we're correcting an overcorrection. So Soviet style weightlifting, bodybuilding, heavy, fast, 2 dimensional, concentric focused strength training has been like dominant, but only for a few decades. There's hundreds and even thousands of years of fitness and health culture that
mm,
honors the body's original and given design, which is actually multi-planar and 3 dimensional.
yeah, kettlebells, clubs, right? Was
Kettle, yeah,
what do
clubs.
they call that sledgehammer thing? That, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
maces
maces.
and maces and clubs. We've been training with those for thousands of years to kill things bigger than us.
Right.
Practical application instead of hyper specialized stuff, right? So now I think we're reaching the point, and I personally, in my own practice, have reached the point where I overcorrected the overcorrection for a long time. Like I went so deep into, I'm done with the 2 dimensions. I'm done with the, linear weightlifting and the compound movements and the Olympic shit. That's the stuff that all hurt me. Now I'm in the enlightened 3 dimensional Ito Portal. It's about the movement space. I sound like I'm shitting on Ito, who's actually been a hugely positive influence on me. The accent, the wannabe accent slipped out there for a minute. I actually really like and respect Ito. But like I went really far in that direction, and now I'm coming back to like the middle zone, and the newest research that we have on development of fascia, tendon, like the focus now the research focus, the academic focus on connective tissue function in the past 10, 15 years has now brought me back to what I personally feel like is the Goldilocks zone, where I very effectively
Mm.
use three-dimensional rehabilitative, skill-based, neurologically focused movement. And I'm now marrying that back again to my fast, heavy, concentric
Yeah, the
Soviet style
two-dimensional
weightlifting
science.
program, because that stuff is also valid, right? There's
Yeah,
no
like
good
they
or bad
figured out the
positions,
protocols. They like you want the maximum improvement.
right?
You do here's how you do your plyo. Here's what a plyo is to the millisecond. Yeah.
Right. So now I understand both those worlds, or I feel like I understand both those worlds in their proper context as different places along the same continuum. And I spend time over on this end of the continuum with the 3D, slow, neurologically focused, skill based stuff for health, longevity, joint repair,
Mm.
my given service. And then I move things over to the fast, linear, heavy when I'm looking for those speed, power, muscle, higher end athletic qualities. So now I see all those tools as being able to weave together depending on what I'm working on, or selectively focused depending on what I'm working on. If I'm working on a particular strength quality at this end of the spectrum, I'll narrow things down to a fine point for one exercise. But if I'm working on something more broad based or esoteric, or maybe if I'm just having a shitty day and I don't have much energy, I'll just crawl around on the ground for 20, 30 minutes and find something productive to do there
Yeah.
that I wasn't planning on. I had planned to do, snatches, a very quick, linear, violent motion that makes you a hell of an athlete if your joints have the integrity to withstand it.
Yeah.
Maybe that day I thought I was going to do that and I just don't have it for whatever reason. Could be in my head, could be I didn't drink enough water. Don't know, don't care. But I still have to
It's
do
not worth
something.
unpicking it, right?
So
Uh,
instead, I'll just turn the dial back towards the more intuitive three-dimensional space, which is always more fun anyways. Like, I don't love Olympic lifting. I just respect what it does for my sprints and my parkour and all that
mm.
stuff. All of it has its proper place. And so now I feel like I have a healthy mix of both in my own training diet. And when I bring people into Monkey Do, my goal is to start them out over here at the intuitive three-dimensional rehabilitative joint repair end. And then as they start mastering different ranges of motion, we start pushing them along the scale towards athleticism.
Mm.
That's just going to make you more durable and give you more fun things to do because nobody, and I repeat, nobody wants to do isometric squats forever, including me.
I'll second that. I can think of so many things I want to ask. I really do encourage people to, not because you have to listen to more Movers Mindset episodes, but I really think people would enjoy listening to, it's like episode 50, maybe 51. Just search for Hannah. Uh, because I'm like, going, oh, there were echoes of a lot of this. Like, I totally makes sense to me to see what you were doing then and what you were talking about then and what you're talking about now. So I think people might really enjoy, cause basically it's the same guy. Like it's just, sometimes I talk to people and they've really made a turn and your development and growth path seems to make a lot of sense to me. Which isn't a question. The question I have is left turn. Where did Sean Obi come from? Like, I think I get the reference, but I'm just like, who called you that? What's with that?
I think a couple of kids in my parkour classes started calling me that because I talk about, for a lot of years, I talked about parkour in the context of pretending to be a ninja. That's basically what the sport is pretend playground ninjas. And this allows me, that's my context for imparting some of the more developed biomechanical qualities of parkour, like landing technique, like learning how to absorb force and rebound and ricochet and connect together different forms of locomotion. Like the only people who ever needed to do that professionally were ninja. So that's what we're about. And some kid, I can't even remember who, like he, he came up to me and said, uh, you know, shinobi also means ninja. And I did know that because I actually have the Bansen Shukai, the official Japanese ninja manual, translated to English, where it talks about the shinobi no nomo, which is which is the proper Japanese for ninja. He said, "You're shinobi." I'm like, "You're right.
Oh,
I I am Shinobi. So
Right.
a lot of people think it's a Star Wars Shinobi Wan Kenobi reference, and it has been used that way as well. But it's mostly ninja, but Seanobi, like an Irish ninja.
I'm totally glad I asked that question. That was way more, I was like, sometimes I'm curious about stuff, and it actually, people are like, why do you ask about that stupid shit? And I'm like, no, I'm glad I asked about that because that's a really great tie in to the ninjutsu. All right. I got like 900 more questions now. What should I have asked you that I forgot to ask
I
you?
have time for three.
Well, there's my first question is what should I have asked you, but I forgot to ask you so far?
Oh, you're asking me what
Hey,
question you should ask me?
yeah, that's what did I forget to ask?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think we covered a lot of ground.
I had a guest one time where I tell people at the front, like, you can push back, you can ignore my questions. I asked him the first question and he went, pass. So I went on to the next question. All right. I will just say, at the risk of like, let's just stretch this out just for fun. I will just say, and of course, the final question, 3 words to describe your practice.
Don't stop moving.
Brilliant. As I say, terrific. Sean, as I knew it would be, it was a delight. I think I said at the beginning, thanks for dropping in, making it super fun and super easy to have our chat. I can't wait until when next our paths cross. Everybody within the sound of my voice, go to go to monkeydo.fit or just scroll down. There are show notes. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Craig. Good to see you again, buddy. Hopefully, I'll see you at a. Oh my God, how embarrassing!
The place with the
American
name.
American Rendezvous, the place we just saw each other. Hope I see you at American Rendezvous this year. Shout out Parkour Generations, amazing event, amazing people, and amazing to reconnect with you there as well.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.